There are people who cry alone, not in the dramatic collapse of movie frames, no shattered glass or thunderclap tears, just the quiet drip of salt on skin, the muffled inhale that catches like a skipped heartbeat, the way a single sob folds into the pillow and vanishes. You won't catch them mid-storm. You'll find them in the after-rain, eyes rinsed, voice steady, a tremor only in the fingertips. They are not fragile or fractured or fleeing. They are fluent in solitude's dialect. The psychology of those who cry alone isn't about weakness. It's about witnessing without audience, grieving without gallery, releasing without rehearsal. You see, for some, tears are not spectacle. They are solitary scripture. Every droplet a clause and a contract with the self. I will feel this fully, but I will not perform it. They cry in locked bathrooms, parked cars, a hush between streetlights. The body bends, the throat tightens, the chest caves. Yet no one is summoned. It's not pride. It's protection of the sacred. The moment grief is observed, it morphs, becomes story, becomes sympathy, becomes something shared, and sharing dilutes. Alone, the tear is pure. Alone, the ache is accurate. Psychologists call it private emotional processing, but the phrase is too clinical for the cathedral of the skull. Inside, the mind builds altars, a memory of a mother's last breath, a lover's unread message, the echo of a child's laugh that will never return. The solitary crier doesn't fight the flood. They facilitate it. They know the brain's ancient plumbing. Tears flush cortisol, soften the amygdala's grip, etch the lesson deeper than words ever could. But they also know the world's hunger for narrative. Tell me your pain. Post it. Perform it. So they retreat. Not from cowardice. From custodial reverence. There's a deeper thread too. The bond between vulnerability and visibility. Many who cry alone were once betrayed by openness. A confession mocked. A breakdown weaponized. A tear turned into testimony against them. Gradually, the psyche learns. Safety is silence. The unconscious recalls exposure like scar tissue. So when a wave rises, the body doesn't reach for a hand. It reaches for ritual containment. A specific song on repeat. A cold tile floor. The dark. These are not escapes. They are sanctuaries. Yet herein lies the paradox. The same solitude that safeguards can calcify into solitary confinement. The crier becomes curator of their own crypt. Every tear archived. Every sob cataloged, until the heart is a museum no one enters. Researchers in effective neuroscience describe this as emotional autocannibalism. The self devours its own sorrow to prevent its spread. It's survival, but survival can starve. Still, we must honor the latent luminescence of the lone crier. When they emerge, they are alchemists of ache. They've transmuted private pain into public poise. Their empathy is surgical. They sense the tremor in your voice before you do. Their counsel is sparse but searing. They don't flood you with fixes. They hold space, because they know what it costs to be held. Studies show solitary processors often excel in contemplative vocations, poetry, palliative care, midnight crisis lines. They don't sprint to save. They sit in the fire. But culture seldom comprehends this. We inhabit a society that equates visibility with validity. We celebrate the viral breakdown, the tear-streaked selfie, the real. We view silence as suppression, solitude as sickness. People who cry alone here. Asterisk. You should talk about it. Bottling kills. Asterisk, but what if the bottle is a chalice? What if their silence is the forge of fortitude? There's a neurological nuance too. Every tear activates the parasympathetic plunge. Heart rate slows, breath deepens, the body reboots. For the solitary, this dive is deliberate descent. They time it. They titrate it. They emerge not drained but distilled. Their brains archive the catharsis with high fidelity. The exact pressure behind the eyes, the metallic taste of grief, the moment the sob crests and collapses. This mnemonic precision becomes their compass. They don't forget how to feel. They remember how to return. Lately, therapists have named this autonomic authorship. The psychic craft of scripting your own surrender. You might sense it after a 3 a.m. unraveling. The way you rise, rinse your face, and meet the dawn with a steadiness no witness could grant. For profoundly private processors, authorship compounds. It's not cataclysmic. It's cumulative. A laugh rings hollow. A hug feels fraught. And suddenly, you just need the dark. Not from despair, but to recalibrate the reservoir. Those who cry alone craft cunning countermeasures. They might ritualize release. A single candle, a specific playlist, a journal that never judges. They might walk at dusk, not to flee, but to frame the flood and vastness. They might set timers. 10 minutes to fall apart. Then I rise. These are not suppressions. They are stewardship, methods of modulating the monsoon. And here's a hushed truth. Solitude isn't invariably isolation. At times, it's sovereignty, discernment of depths, reverence for release, fidelity to feeling. That's psychological prowess at play. The issue isn't the cry. It's the self-scorn for shedding it unseen. We're schooled that shared sorrow is halved. But what if solitary sorrow is sanctified? Equilibrium endures, though, for utter aloneness, cozy at onset, curdles into atrophy. The psyche requires resonance. Souls who echo our epics without exploitation. Maturation unfolds in mirrored mourning, even if those mirrors are metaphorical. Thus, the true pursuit for lone criers isn't to perform the pain. It's to permit its passage. Commence modestly. A text unsent but written. A voicemail deleted after speaking. A tear traced on a window pane. Progression needn't signify publicity. It can signify permission. What criers in solitude truly pursue is an exposure. It's expression without extraction. They aren't shackled by shadows. They're sculpted by silence, seeking spaces sacred enough to sob without script. And occasionally, they merely require recognition. To not construe their containment as coldness. To grasp that when they withdraw, it's not you I distrust. It's distillation. They're not negating connection. They're affirming nuance. It's a subdued sort of sovereignty, the sort unlauded, yet laudable, for it demands daring to defy the dictate of display, to venerate your visceral volume in an epic enamored with exposure. The psychology of those who cry alone isn't a chronicle of concealment. It's a chronicle of custodial catharsis. Every tear has testimony, and they've mastered metering it where it molds most. Sometimes the sternest strain for those who weep in solitude isn't the salt on the cheek. It's abiding the imprint, the remorse that resonates, the muted musing if they've muted meaning unwittingly. They rehearse the retreat in reverie, rationalizing it. I just needed to note it. I was anchored. Perhaps presently I'll pronounce it. But inwardly, they sense this transcends a single silence. It's a cadence their continuum compels. Sorrow mounts and solitude mediates. What multitudes miss is that release blooms not in broadcast. It burgeons in backstory. Perhaps it commenced when a child internalized a slight as scripture. Perhaps they were the sentinel in a stormy lineage, or the scribe in a squad of sharers. They discerned that digesting was durabler than displaying, that delving was doable over declaring. Gradually, that gravity grew Genesis. They didn't cease connecting. They just etched eternally. Cognitively, this engenders what scholars term solitary synaptic sanctum, the propensity to tether tomorrow to testimony, to temper tumult. It's not aversion to attachment. It's asylum and autonomy. But here's the luminous verity. Criers in solitude often harbor prodigious interior panoramas. Their persistence propagates profundity, perspicacity, and perseverance unbred in untrammeled tempo. They are the cartographers of quiet, the chroniclers of catharsis, the custodians of containment, the steadfast sentinels, sustaining symmetry in a spasmodic sphere. Their silence isn't barren. It's the bedrock where resilience proliferates. But if they linger overly in that locus can congeal into confinement, wrought from reticence, recrimination, and spectral slights. Cognition dubs this the retention reel of release. The more one rehearses a residue in solitude, the more resolute that residue renders. Each evocation affords easement momentarily, yet buttresses the bond betwixt bygone and burden, shattering that real demands not coercive confession. It's recontextualizing its connotation, rather than reckoning reticence as restraint. They might morph it into mentor in measured motion. modest milestones to mobilize sans mutilation. One of the most misapprehended attributes of those who convey catharsis in cloister is their heightened hydraulic acuity. They register the minutiae of moments. The flutter in the frame preceding a flood. The constriction in the core before a chronicle cascades. The thrum in the thorax when release rears. That acuity, if unharnessed, recoils into retrospection. But cultivated, it converts to cathartic command. The crux isn't to cauterize acuity. It's to calibrate it. Anchoring arts and measured meditations, tactile talismans, soothing sutras remind the reason. I am intact, because much of solitude's yoke isn't the sorrow. It's the form recollecting epics it endured and embraced. And yet, the paradox persists. Numerous who cry alone are among the most magnanimous minds you'll meet. They mourn mightily. They memorialize milestones. They minister mutely. They manifest mercy in manners that missed unnoticed. They merely grapple with the grandeur of the gone, the facet that mandates magnification. For them, legacy isn't lavish. It's the latent letter unearthed at leisure. The lingering look, the manner they metabolize sans monopolizing. Their continuum isn't carved in the cascade. It's carved in the cloistered chapters none else chronicles. There's an evolutionary cognition facet here too. Not all are architected for absolute announcement. In primordial packs, poise was paramount. Some scouted, some sustained, some sequestered sorrow. The sequesterers who stored sagas often obviated oversights, divine discord, discerned drifts others disregarded. Their attention was resilience. Contemporarily, that tenacity transmutes variably. It might manifest as intuiting an ally's ancient ache or perusing the pallor of a poised pretense too piercingly. When every epic engulfs concurrently, the mind meanders to memory as bulwark. The now epic innervates that. It elevates ephemera. If you're not manifesting, memeing, or manifesting momentum, it seems you're marooned. But verily, crying alone isn't waning. It's withstand against whimsical wipe. It's the essence's edict, asterisk. I repudiate relinquishing my renderings merely to render relevant. Asterisk. Still, safeguarding and surging must synthesize, because excessive safeguarding stagnates, and undue delving dulls. The aim isn't to antagonize the affinity for archives. It's to unearth emergence that doesn't eviscerate it. In counsel, a notion termed graduated grieving obtains. It signifies incremental, ingestible increments toward the trepid, not to annihilate adherence, but to amplify amplitude. For one crying in cloister, that might mean memorializing a minute, then mobilizing mercy-free. It might mean mapping the mass on parchment prior to proclaiming it. The purport isn't to propel proliferation. It's to persuade the psyche that procession doesn't invariably portend peril. Gradually, the form fathoms a fresh fable. I can cry and yet cascade. But let's plumb profounder. Why does mere persistence in the present palpate so ponderously at intervals? Because diurnal dynamics delineate us starkly. Every exchange elucidates an essence of our encumbered ego. When kin kindle carefree, we feel fissured. When cohorts commune in Kurim,